Well, surprise, surprise, here I am. I'm at the Rosa Realty headquarters with none other than Joe Rosa, founder, CEO of Rosa Realty. It's going to be a shocker today. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss this one.
This is the Realty Rant with Vincent Arcuri. No fluff, no sugarcoating, no holding back. After decades in real estate, Vincent has seen it all. Tune in as he cuts through the noise to share the trends, tactics, and truths you won't hear anywhere else. The show starts now.
Well, I'm here at the beautiful building here, La Rosa Realty headquarters. This is the first time we've done a podcast outside of our little bubble there in the studios in Tampa. So this is super exciting to have you here. I appreciate you agreeing to be on the show. I know you're a busy man.
Of course. No, listen, I've been looking forward to the opportunity. And it's great to be able to host you here at our corporate office.
Awesome. You know, I love to get insights of people. You know, I'm boots on the ground, and then you talk to these leaders in the industry like yourself. And one of the things, you know, I've been a real estate agent for 35 years, and I started with one of the legacy brokers. I was with ERA, and I was actually with ERA from like 1991 to 2008. And I was the number one ERA agent in the world in 2008. And I got my first snippet of rev share because I was courted by Exit Realty and Steve Morris, who I consider the godfather of rev share, recruited me to Exit, and I got a taste of it. But as the time has gone on, I've seen and I've taken a keen notice that these legacy brokerages that have dominated the real estate industry for decades and decades, they're giving way to companies like yours, like La Rosa Realty, where agents are now able to own part of the company. They're able to be an owner in the company. They're able to get a rev share. So when they do have a slow month, I mean, these companies, they all seem to be slowly, to some better than others. Sure. You know, I feel like some of them are booby trapped. I was with one that I felt like I was booby trapped, but some are better than others. Yours is an excellent example that I like to use, which is why I'm here. And you see this happening in the industry. Obviously, you capitalized on it. Your company's publicly traded, and that's very successful. And have you noticed this trend that's happening in the industry?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, over the last, several years, I feel like it's actually, the momentum has actually increased, and, years ago, when we first kind of rebranded La Rosa and kind of came into the market with our initial model of just offering 100% commission, everyone was just starting to hear the term agent-centric. Right. And now I kind of feel like everybody is trying to utilize that term. And, once we went public, at the time, we were really only offering, one real main commission model, which is the 100%. You just pay, obviously, a transaction fee. And then as we started to, get into the public market, and really then, me being forced to talk more openly about some of our, call it, competitors that are out there and other companies that are offering different commission plans and different structures, I got to understand even more the rev share model. And I thought, man, wow, if it's done right, it's a tremendous benefit to the agent. And, if you talk about being agent centric, like, what's the definition of that? Definition is really, to me, is trying to create as much value as you can to the agent, for the agent. And so we wanted to kind of find a way where, we looked at several companies that were doing it right, we felt, and then some companies that we felt were not doing it right. Right. And we wanted to kind of find that right formula to be able to introduce it to the market and see if we can just make it, it's not what we're known for, but just an additional service that we can offer now to agents.
Right. It's funny you say that because, whenever I bring this out on the podcast or I make a post on social media and I say, and I'll call out the shortcomings of some of these other companies that are supposedly looking out for the agents, but they're looking out for the elites at the top only. Sure. And when I call that out, now their big calling card to me is they say, well, we're real estate first, which is comical because every real estate brokerage in the world is real estate first. If you're not selling real estate, nothing happens. And I felt like it's something that the CEO will coin that phrase and give it, like, these people are dumbasses. They're not going to figure, we're real estate first. So that's not important. The rev share is important because, well, for the agents that do decide to participate in it, and for consumers, I always feel like what's undersold, Joe, is these consumers that they don't understand rev share. But they're a consumer that lists with an agent that's successful in rev share it ensures that the marketing of their home is never interrupted. So if that agent's having a bad month and they go, whoa, let me scale back on my marketing this month because I got to make the mortgage payment. Having success in the rev share side of it and owning stock in the company really puts the agent and then their clients in a position to win.
Right. 100%. I mean, and listen, my father taught me this many years ago, right? As a business entrepreneur, individual, and agents today, right? We're all entrepreneurs, right? We're all independent contractors. It's important to create multiple streams of revenue, right? So that, you can obviously being able to keep pushing forward, even when you go through those peaks and valleys, and maybe you're in one of those valleys where it's a challenging month, challenging quarter, whatever else, but you have that other stream of revenue coming in so that you can do exactly what you just said, not have to scale back on marketing, not have to scale back on, marketing your listings or marketing yourself as an agent so that you can go out there and secure new business.
Right. And what I see is that agents, they get attracted to these companies. Like they see La Rosa, they see Real, the EXP, even Exit, like we had mentioned them. And you see these companies that have their toe in the water, or some of them are more fully vested than others. And the agents really have a choice on where they're going to go. But I think the mistake that agents make is they really don't take a deep dive into these models, because I feel like some of them, I feel like your company is very for the agent. The company that I work with, Real, they're very into the agent, and you find ways to pay your agents, which is why you've been so successful. But when you set these booby traps out, and you say, well, in order to get the rev share, we got to pay, all your caps got to be paid. So we're going to take all that money. And funny, again, I post about this on social media and I get attacked and they say, oh no, it's going to help you cap faster. I know you can't talk too much about it, but it's like almost like agents can't do math and they don't understand that to me, what attracts me to companies and to people like you is you always want the agent to win.
Sure. Absolutely.
And that is the company is structured in a way that it makes it easy for the agent to win without having all these booby traps set up, oh, if you die, let me give you all these little booby traps for the person, the error of your rev share to get so that they can't get it. Most of these companies, they lay it out to where, oh my God, it's a horrible thing happened and let's make sure that their family's taken care of. So they're not all the same. Your company's not the same as a lot of other ones. So I think the agents need to learn to differentiate the hype from what's actually being provided to them by these brokerages.
No, 100%. And I think the problem is that a lot of agents, maybe if they're going through kind of a little bit of a downtime in their business or whatever else, and they get this idea presented to them about how they can generate and earn additional revenue, they don't read through the fine print. They don't look at all of the details. And that was really, like, for me, it was, again, I've said this for years now. We didn't invent the idea of offering agents 100% commission at La Rosa. We just found a way to kind of reinvent it, add our own little twist to it. And when I started to study all of these different, companies that are out there offering the rev share, I was like, talking about the ultimate bait and switch. Because it's like, they get into it and they will go and they'll run some numbers to like this calculator and they think, oh, I can make all this money. And then they don't realize, well, before you can make that money, this has to happen. This has to happen. All of these different things. So again, we're not really going to be known as a company that offers rev share. We just offer a different variation of it. And we just wanted to simplify it. We wanted to simplify it so that every single person that's in it understands it. Because one of the things that I was really shocked when I was doing my own due diligence, my own research, talking to different agents and different leaders and so on, when I would ask even leaders, you'd be surprised. Explain to me how your model works. 8 out of 10 times, they were getting stuck somewhere in the explanation. They were trying to really understand it themselves as they were trying to explain it to me. So we wanted, again, just simplify it and just find a way that, again, it's just another service that we can offer to agents today.
Right. And one of the things I always tell agents that I'm talking to is, listen, you're looking at, if you see you've been with this company for 3 years and all you're seeing this hype machine saying, look at us, we're number one, we're the biggest, we're the fastest growing, look at your own bank account and see if your bank account stays the same and then the company's growing and your bank account isn't getting any bigger. You have to look in the mirror and say, who is this company helping get rich?
Right.
And it just flabbergasts me when I see agents just I always say real estate agents can't do math. I couldn't do math because you know what? I've been with a couple of rev share companies. XED, I've been with another company, LPT in Florida. They're very well known. But when you get in and you start experiencing something and you say, wow, I've got 700 people in my organization. I've recruited 40 people. It's 700 and I'm making peanuts.
Yeah.
And you can go somewhere else and you say, well, how is this really benefiting me? Because the amount of time it takes. So rev share has to be a balance. You have to be able to say, hey, I'm selling real estate.
Right.
I've got some rev share. I've got some stock in the company, which I think all those things are important.
Sure.
And they all have to be balanced. Some companies pay more than others, some pay less, but the agent himself has to have the tools and the resources that benefit them.
Right.
That's what I love about La Rosa Realty. It's one of my favorite brokerages out there because I feel like with the training that you offer the agents, it's not based on if you're going to IPO, you've already IPO'd. Your company is based on training these agents and giving them the tools and the resources to succeed so that their bank accounts grow, not just yours.
Right.
That's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. And that's why you also see over time, you'll see kind of like almost like these cycles within our industry of these companies kind of coming up out of nowhere. All of a sudden, they're like the hottest thing out there. But then all of a sudden, after maybe a couple of years, I would say momentum starts to definitely kind of die down. They start to kind of lose their, I would say, branding to some extent, because what happens is that people start to kind of, they start to realize, hey, wait a second, this is not what I was promised. This is not what I thought was, going to be offered to me. It's not really here. So, and that's why we're seeing even now. I mean, I'm seeing now, keeping an eye on different, I would say, other companies that are out there, and you're seeing some of these leaders exit and leave. And they make this big splash. It's all over social media. Hey, I've joined, and they try to kind of, and what they don't realize what they're doing is all they're doing is they're marketing for the big guys up top.
Yes.
Hey, like you'll see like these great videos coming out there. I've just joined. I'm going to, change the world now and everything else. And all that's doing is empowering the top and not really them. Because what's happening is then 12, 18, 24 months later, they're leaving. They're starting their own new company. They're going out and joining somebody else. And so, I think if you see that trend take place, I think that should be kind of an eye opener to agents out there that, hey, maybe I should do a little bit more research. Maybe I should dig a little bit deeper into understanding, why are some of these folks leaving and, what's really going on there.
Right. Joe, you're preaching to the choir because I was one of the guys that signed an ICA and didn't really read it because I had full trust in the bullshit that was being fed to me. And I was like, well, okay, well, look, oh my God, you're so impressed with the surroundings. Yeah. And then you jump in and then, I know you're close with your dad. And I'm really close with my dad. And my dad always read everything, have your lawyer read everything, understand it, which I didn't. This is my past life. And my dad also said, when you realize you've made the wrong choice, you need to slam on the brakes because the farther you go down the road, the farther you have to come back to correct it. So I think a lot of agents, they get in this and they've got these promises and these hopes of something that's going to happen that may or may not ever happen. They know they've made the wrong decision and they're just doubling down and digging in deeper. And, my recommendation to agents are if it's not working out where you are and your income isn't going up, take a look around. There's some excellent companies that are out there, Absolutely. This being one of them, where they'll train you and you can get a benefit of the rev share. You can get stock in the company and as I mentioned, the company's publicly traded. And it's the agents, you need to do your research and decide for yourself instead of a hype machine that's designed to make somebody else rich.
Absolutely. And listen, there's, a lot of folks would probably initially see you and I coming on a podcast together, coming on a show together and saying, well, you guys are like competitors. I think we both share the same opinion of the fact that there are companies out there, as like both of ours, that are trying to do the right thing, right? Try to do the right thing for our agents, create as much value, create as much opportunities. And it's important for the agents that are out there to truly be able to take the time and the research to really understand what's going to be the best fit for them.
Right. I agree. So rather than keep kicking this horse, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to wrap it up with the final segment here on what's happening with NAR, what's happening to the real estate industry. You're not going to want to miss this. Stick around. Thanks for watching Realty Rant. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. This episode brought to you by the law offices of Edward Brennan, a kind of legal counsel you hope you never need, but you're glad you have. And now, back to the show. Well, we're back here with Joe LaRosa, CEO, founder of LaRosa Realty. And, I couldn't not sit here with you and get your take on these lawsuits that are flying around. We've all had the big NAR settlement.
Sure.
Where everybody had to participate. In my view, one of the most unfair things ever. I just didn't feel like the National Association of Realtors really put much of an effort against that as more as they pushed the settlement. So what did that do? It opened up more doors.
Right.
So I saw recently that Zillow is now getting sued under the RICO Act by the same people that are behind it are the ones that went after the National Association. Think about that, the RICO Act, the mafia. That's how they go after mob leaders under the RICO Act. Well, they're going after Zillow. And what they're alleging is that these, what we've all known is that if a customer is on Zillow and they click, oh, I want more information, they're under the illusion that they're going to get the listing agent, and they don't, and they get somebody that Zillow is selling the lead to. So we know in the real estate industry that's been happening. But now what they're coming out with are they are steering people to their mortgage and title.
Right.
And that has really opened it up to another level. And they've actually got where the Zillow executives, if you read the complaint, the Zillow executives didn't want to put in writing or on a voicemail or on an email. So they flew in person to tell agents if they didn't steer clients to these entities that they would be losing their Flex program. And if you're a consumer, the Flex program basically means when you click, I want to talk to the listing agent, and you're not getting the listing agent, you're getting one of these Flex agents. So that's the basis of that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about that, and I want to round that into when this is over, if they're successful and Zillow has the payout, we're going to get into the IDXs and what do you see happening to real estate agents? Because it seems like they went after Big Daddy. Now they're going after the sources, and ultimately I'm fearful of the agents. Exactly.
Well, absolutely. And that's what I'm afraid of. It's like anything else, right? Once you open up kind of, call it Pandora's box, it's like now all of a sudden, the dominoes start to fall. And so, yeah, over the last couple of years, now that you've seen, the first initial lawsuit come through, and then now you're going to get not just copycat lawsuits, but different variations. And listen, I mean, my opinion is this, and maybe it's not a popular opinion. That's why maybe I'm not as involved at the higher level, whether it's at NAR or, there's some great leaders out there too, by the way. So I don't want to knock, the whole idea of it. And so I don't really know how you feel about this. I think I have an idea. But, to me, there needs to be change. 100%. I think there needs to be change. I felt like over the last several years, there wasn't the support of the agents. And, I think that, there's just a absolute need for change at the top to trickle all the way down to make sure that what is going to be protected are us as individual agents, to make sure that we can continue moving forward, because our industry is also changing, right? Through technology. Zillow has had an unbelievable opportunity. They did take advantage of being able to build off of the trend now with technology. But, you also got to be careful too, that you don't create these monopolies and you don't create, these different scenarios, kind of like what you're explaining. I know firsthand from several of our agents that have been involved, with Zillow and in their Flex plan. And exactly what you just said is some of the stories that I keep hearing about how they're being forced to, kind of push people towards one direction. And at the end of the day is that, it's not fair. At the end of the day, our number one priority is to protect the consumer as a realtor. Protect the consumer, look out what's best for them, because in most cases, for the consumers that we work with, this could be one of the most important financial decisions that they're going to make in their lifetime, buying a home. And so we have to make sure that we're always looking out for them. And I think a lot of what's been going on over the years has kind of shifted the focus away from really protecting the consumers and protecting organizations so that they continue to operate as a business, and not really looking out for the individual agents, which obviously impacts the consumers.
Right. And I'm not opposed to the IDX, obviously with disclosure and transparency,
Sure.
which is what we are all about on the podcast. And I just, I think about the industry when I was a new agent in 1991, and it was like we had the MLS books and we
Right.
waited for the book to come out because the broker got one book and everybody was in line to see what the new listings were, and everything's so instantaneous now. But back then it was a waiting game, and I feel like customers got more of a relationship building with their agent, and technology to a degree, and I want to get your opinion on this. The technology to a degree has eliminated the personal touch because these people are speaking to AI, and it's gotten sensational.
Yeah.
Where I don't even know if I'm talking to a person. I have to ask it when I'm on a chat. So it's gotten from that you knew you were talking to a person over the phone or in person, because those were the only two ways. I mean, we did direct mail, but I mean, when you met that agent, you knew you called that number, you were talking to them. So I think the business has really gotten more into a business when you see these billion-dollar companies now that are involved with it because they're selling leads and they're making money other ways. I think that's good and bad for the consumer. I just wanted to get your take on that as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And listen, I see an unbelievable opportunity ahead. And this is why I see this opportunity. You know, technology is not going to replace realtors. And I've said this over and over again. It's going to replace the realtors that don't want to embrace technology. And I think what's happening is now is, you know, again, realtors are kind of, I would say, creatures of habit. They don't like change. They don't like to do things differently. They want to kind of do it the way it's been done in the past. But we have to embrace technology. You have to find a way to utilize AI, but not let AI run your business.
Right.
Right. Find a way to be able to lean on it, build out, you know, your own business model that you can take advantage of different types of technology platforms that are out there. And so the agents that are out there now today, here's the opportunity that I see. The majority of them are going to be scared. They're going to be afraid of technology. They're not going to want to embrace it. They're going to come up with excuses. You know, oh, well, you know, this is not going to work out. It's going to replace me at some point. Maybe it's not worth it. No, the opportunity is that the majority of folks will have that mindset. You should have the opposite. And you should see that there is an opportunity to embrace it, utilize it, find a way to be able to create a better relationship with the consumer. Because, you know, I have an uncle of mine that, you know, they're not called stockbrokers anymore. I think they're called financial advisors nowadays.
Yeah.
But many years ago, you know, he started working for Morgan Stanley. And I remember, maybe it wasn't even Morgan Stanley. It was a company prior to Morgan Stanley. And it was at the time where E-Trade was coming out and all of these different platforms. And I was young at the time. I remember kind of joking with him saying, hey, you know, how do you feel? Like, is this going to, you know, do you feel like this type of technology that's being introduced is going to eventually replace, you know, what you do? And he said, look, Joe, you know what? When you look at the total population of how many stockbrokers there are out there, maybe it's going to replace 10, 15, 20%, right? But the ones that are truly understanding the importance of creating that relationship, creating that rapport, you know, having that, you know, that trust that you can build with a consumer, those that understand and embrace that, they're never going to be forced out of the industry. And that's what I see with real estate. I think it's important, you know, whether you like him or you don't like him, sometimes he's a little bit over the top. But, you know, one of the things that I've always stood by that Grant Cardone said to me many years ago, and I heard him say this on TV a couple different times, is that, you know, when you look at all the contacts that you have in your database, and if you want to turn those contacts into an actual closing and have an opportunity to generate some revenue for yourself, when you look at the word contact and the word contract, because you want to get every one of your contacts into a contract, and you put those words kind of side by side, they're spelled exactly the same other than one letter, and that's the letter R, and that stands for relationships. So if you understand the importance of creating a relationship with your consumer and having that kind of rapport, you'll be golden. You'll be set. So going back to what you said before, yeah, I think technology is something that we should all embrace, find a way to utilize, find a way to incorporate it into your business. Some may want to incorporate it in other ways compared to others, but I think it's a great opportunity for agents today to see this window that's going to be kind of opening up here over these next few years.
I appreciate that. And, you know, to the agents out there, that phone, that's your gold right there. They're buying leads and trying to join teams at a reduced split, and that's a whole nother conversation I won't get into today, but there's gold in your phone. Just pick up the phone and call some people and stop trying to get this hands off like some miracle client's going to email you and you're not going to have to talk to anybody. It's a people business. You got to talk to people. So I want to wrap up here. I want to say thank you so much. Everybody here has been so gracious. Your building is absolutely beautiful. One of the nicest guys that I've ever met in the real estate industry, Joe LaRosa. He's a leader in the industry. I truly feel, and what drew me to you when I first met you was that you truly truly care about your agents, and it isn't just about this next entity or it's a win-win for everybody here. And I love that about you, and you've always been open to helping me, and I just appreciate you being on the pod. I know you're busy over here and you came in. I want to thank you so much for being here.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of the Realty Rant with your host, Vincent Arcuri. Thanks for listening. Subscribe now and follow on all social platforms so you never miss the real insights. And we'll see you next time on the Realty Rant.
The Realty Rant is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Opinions are those of the speakers. No person, company, or entity is being singled out or accused. Hosts and affiliates are not responsible for actions based on this content.